I'm Aniela Murphy. I'm an illustrator, and my website is www.anielamurphy.co.uk.
You didn't train as an illustrator, you studied fine art, and you've only sort of started doing illustration more recently, as well as the graphic design you've been doing. Can you tell me how that sort of has happened, why you started doing that?
I always knew I wanted to go into art and do something creative. Now I think about it, I probably should have gone and done something like illustration at university, but at the time, fine art seemed right for me. About a year ago, after graduating, I did an illustration-based project, a collaborative project with a friend of mine, and I just loved it, and I'd never really had an insight into the illustration world, and I realised that that was the route I wanted to take. So since then, I've just been reading up and sort of teaching myself little things. I've been doing some logo design and things like that, and some branding. I've been fairly fortunate, but obviously, I'm excited to see what happens in the future as well.
Cool.
And see how things go, because it's only been a year and I started doing this.
So how has being involved with Amelia's magazine and sort of doing a lot of illustrations for us sort of helped you develop your work?
Well, because illustration for me is fairly new, it's amazing sort of just having a platform where you have the freedom to experiment. And I just think it's been absolutely invaluable to me particularly. And I've been able to sort of like see how my work's developed in a fairly, relatively short space of time. Every single thing on Amelia's magazine is obviously very different. And I found it really useful as someone who started up. It's just been absolutely brilliant.
You've really got into fashion illustration. What is it about fashion illustration that's really attracted you?
I always drew as a kid, but I remember there was something that sort of, there was a moment where I remember thinking I cracked it. I was probably about 12. But I taught myself through fashion illustration, sort of weekend supplements and that kind of thing. I just used to really like drawing people. It's something that still really appeals to me, the different poses, the nice clothes and all the rest of it. It just feels familiar, and I think that I feel comfortable doing it, and I enjoy it, basically.
How do you construct your illustrations, and what techniques are you using at the current time?
I'm working more and more digitally as I've been going along, mainly because I never used to at all. So it's more of a learning curve as well, and I quite like sort of getting to grips with software like Photoshop and Illustrator and things like that. I always start on the drawing board, though. I think that's kind of important for me, seeing that I started doing this because I love drawing. I don't want to get sucked into the digital age too far, so there's no way back. I draw my illustrations and I photograph them, put them onto the computer. I do a lot of research into model poses and so on through magazines that I've got lying around that I collect. And if I think there's a pose that fits with that, then I'll draw it, I'll put it on the computer, and then I'll manipulate it. Sometimes I might even use parts of the photos in the illustration itself as well, as a kind of a collage pastiche kind of thing. I discovered Twitter when I decided what I wanted to do. It sort of happened around the same time. And I love Twitter, especially for work purposes. I don't really use it in terms of, sort of talking to my mates and that kind of thing. That's more Facebook. But Twitter, the illustration community on there are incredible. There are loads, like everyone's on it, and it's great for advice. It's amazing to show people what you're up to and to see what they're up to as well. Also, I work on my own at the moment. I'm hoping to eventually sort of get studio space and things like that. But at the moment, I'm sort of saving the pennies, and it's like a portal. You're not really on your own because you can talk to people. I know it sounds a bit like, little geek on the computer, that kind of thing. But
so exactly like me.
But I really enjoy it. And it's great to sort of become acquainted with people, with like illustrators, designers, art directors and all sorts, find out what's going on. I think it's a brilliant resource.
Have you met up with people in real life that you've met on
you?
There? well, yes.
Not many. I think I've met about 4 of my Twitter pals in the past, and it is bizarre because you feel like you do know them properly. So when you meet them, it's sort of like, oh, hello. It's a very strange feeling, but it's great. It is great. Facebook, I do have an artist fan page. A fan page is a great way of getting across what you're doing at the moment to your friends, and you never know when doors are going to open and that kind of thing. So it's really useful for that kind of thing. You might not know what someone you knew when you were like, 10 years old is doing now. It's great to sort of get yourself out there.
Cool.
While sitting on your own. I'm really enjoying it. So